Hi guys, I wanted to share this insight on how to be able to think really fast. Now, what I mean by thinking really fast is not calculation, mathematical or analytical calculation. That is not what I mean by thinking really fast. What I mean is something more qualitative. For example, being able to judge a situation, being able to judge a decision, being able to judge an argument. So it's more qualitative, it's less mathematical, financial, or analytical. Okay, this is the scope. So let me start with my first example. This was a board meeting of Segway. Segway was this amazing product which had only one wheel and which could be self-balancing and would be used for transportation, let's say within malls or airports, etc. Segway. Okay. So Steve Jobs was one of the investors. So when the board meeting was happening, the chief marketing officer or Segway's team were presenting. Steve Jobs immediately was able to critique or judge their idea of production to be a wrong one. Their idea was to go for in-house production. Steve Jobs immediately questioned it and said, right on the spur of the moment, he questioned and said it will not work. And first he asked, why do you want to go for in-house production and why you don't want to outsource the production? You should focus on the design and the product management and not on the production. Why are you going for in-house production? The person said, because we don't want our technology, our product to be reverse engineered. Steve Jobs had two counters here. One, he said reverse engineering will anyways be possible because the moment the product is out in the market, anyone can open it and reverse engineer it. So it's not going to be, it's not like a medicine where it's difficult to get the chemical composition. That is point one. Second point he said was wherever you are planning the production, that is not a known city. So it would be very difficult for you to set up plant and ensure that all the engineers move to that new location with their families. So it's not a good idea. You should not go for self-production. You should go for outsourcing it. This is first example. He was immediately able to critique or shut down the idea. Now let's think, why was he immediately able to judge that this idea is not a valid idea of in-house production? My view here is whoever is able to think in the essence, whoever is able to distill the first principles involved in a decision can think very quickly. Why? Because it's a habit. Understanding the first principle involved in any matter is a habit. Once you develop that habit, immediately you can get the first principle. It will not take you long to get the first principle involved in a particular situation. This is my first point. I cannot prove this point. This is for people to realize that by thinking in essence, by thinking in first principle, by thinking of in salient terms, the moment a topic comes in front of you, you will be able to understand the first principle. Right now, we are not able to get the first principle because we are not habituated. No one has taught us. But Steve Jobs had his meditative personality. He used to distill the essence and think of the first principles. Immediately, he was able to understand that this is the first principle that is getting violated, that product can be reverse engineered. The second first principle is that engineers will not move to this new location. Maybe the third first principle you would have used would be that outsourcing is a very efficient, quick way to get your product, the production up to scale. So my point here is that if you want to be able to think or judge really, really fast, what quality one needs is to be able to think in first principles. And as I described, that first principles can be immediately discovered when a topic is in front of you. You can very quickly discover the first principles. And then once you have identified the first principles, it is very easy to figure out whether that first principle is getting violated or not, right? Because it's a fundamental. You will know that whether the fundamental is being obeyed or getting violated. So combining these two things, you will be able to quickly judge whether something will work or not. Let me give you another example. Here, it was not an example of judging a situation, but it's a very interesting example, again involving Steve Jobs, of a reply, an amazing reply. Now, this was basically, there was some company, they were working on, I think, marketing strategy or something for Apple, for Steve Jobs. So the team members were in their office for this company, this vendor to Apple, and the phone rang, and the two partners they picked up the phone, and the lady on the other side said that Steve Jobs would like you to present to him your marketing work all the work that you have done for other clients. And he will be in his car in 30 minutes. So that was like a shock, right? You only have 30 minutes and you have to present your work to Steve Jobs in 30 minutes. They got anxious. The partners got anxious. Anyways, they met Steve Jobs in his car and showed him the presentation. They had done some work for Nike, and the other work was for some other XYZ company. I forgot the name. Steve Jobs immediately, when he looked at the work, immediately he said, "What would you guys say if I told you that I don't like your work?" And immediately the people got even more anxious. And then Steve Jobs continued that because your work that you have done for Nike and the work you have done for this XYZ, it does not look like Apple. Your work does not look like Apple. This is Nike and XYZ company. One of the partners got anxious. The other partner immediately replied, saying that, yes, you're right, our work does not look like Apple because it is not like Apple. When we work for Nike, we only customize the work for Nike. When we work for the XYZ company, we only focused on the requirements of that XYZ company. Tomorrow, if we will work for Apple, the work will be unique and customized to Apple. And the moment that person said that, there was a pause. Steve Jobs taking a pause means that he is understood. He did not still commit anything, but next day they got the job for the marketing, whatever marketing work for Apple. Now the question is, let's take a step back. Why was this partner able to think on his feet and come up with an amazing reply? My view, again, the same principle applies. Whoever has understood the first principle. So this partner who was able to reply, he would have internalized the first principle behind his company's work or his company's working philosophy. And that would be, do we go for standardized work or do we go for customized work? A lot of consulting companies, a lot of marketing, advertising companies, they go for standardized work, right? They have one way, one process, and they apply because they develop expertise in that. Maybe accounting companies also do that. They apply that particular standardized process to different contexts. But this guy would have already internalized, felt it, and believed strongly that his company stood not for standardized, but for customized work. And because that first principle would have been either in his conscious mind or subconscious mind, he would have been immediately able to reply to Steve Jobs that our work does not look like Apple because it has not been done for Apple. It looked like Nike because it was done for Nike, because we are in the business of customized work. This is my assumption only. This is my theory, my insight, my belief that if you can think in first principles, you can think very, very quickly. Thank you.